So we check in with Kevin Iole on some MMA news, some UFC news. Big news last week, no doubt about it, with Chael Sonnen and the positive test. And the UFC's made their decision. They're putting Vitor Belfort in a fight, sometime in 2011 against Anderson Silva. Great fight. I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad you are, Steve. Yeah, if it was a non-title fight, I have no problem with it. I think it would be an exciting fight. My problem is, how has Vitor Belfort earned a shot at the middleweight championship? When has he fought middleweight in the UFC? Tell me the last fight he's had in the UFC at middleweight. I'll tell you the answer to that. He hasn't. I think his last win at middleweight was over Matt Lindland. I think what has he fought? 2 middleweight fights, Terry Martin and Matt Lindland, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. To my way of thinking, you have to win fights in the organization you're in and against rated contenders in order to get a shot at the championship. And I know that the Sonnen thing, caused a lot of problems for them. But I think, the answer to this situation is have Vitor go ahead and fight Yushin Okami and then have that winner fight and Anderson Silva and rearrange your schedule a little bit. It's not ultimately what they wanted to do. And I think that they wanted to get Anderson on one of the big shows, either at the end of the year or Super Bowl weekend. But I just don't like Vitor. I don't think he's earned the championship shot in this particular division.
So for you, it's more about fighting at the weight rather than the promotion, because I can, I'll draw a comparison, but obviously the guy's very accomplished at the weight. But if Fedor had come in to UFC without wins in UFC, he would have gotten Brock Lesnar immediately.
Yeah, and you can't argue that one because,
right.
Number one, that would have been the biggest fight in history in terms of had it come before the Verdun loss. Had he signed with the UFC in 2009, in the summer of 2009, when there was talk about that, that would have been the biggest fight in history. So from everybody's standpoint, that people would have wanted to see it. There was clamor around the world to see that fight. I think Brock would have wanted it. Certainly Fedor would have wanted that fight. And I don't think anybody can say, hey, Fedor needs to start at the bottom and fight Joey Beltran. I think everybody would have agreed that, hey, Fedor deserves to get right in the mix. But in Vitor's case, Vitor's been kind of a mixed bag in his career, and he hasn't proven it. He has not made 185. So, he fought that fight with Rich Franklin at 195. What do we do if he comes in and, it's been over 2 years since he last made, by the time the fight will come, it's going to be over 2 years since he had made 185. What if he comes up and all of a sudden finds out, hey, guess what, I can't make it? Not good. I don't think it's right that, you put a guy in a title shot. I think you have to see that he can make the weight first and beat somebody in the division. Maybe he can make the weight and you're going to be totally depleted. We don't know what kind of Vitor we're going to get because we've never seen him at this weight, especially at this age.
So do you feel like Dave Marquardt got screwed here?
I don't want to say he got screwed, because if we say we don't take the Vitor fight, now you say, you're Dana White or you're Joe Silva talking to me. Okay, smart guy, who do I put him in with, right? And then it's not so easy because, Nate Marquardt not only lost to Anderson Silva, he lost to Chael Sonnen. Do you put Yushin Okami back in there? He just got beat by Chael Sonnen. So there's no, obvious, logical guy to go in. That's why I say, hey, you know what? Just push Anderson's title defense back a little bit, and then we go and we create a contender by having a fight. That's how I would do it. I think that would be the more favorable thing to do. I understand that, maybe from a business standpoint, not the greatest thing to do, but from a competitive standpoint, the UFC's done such a great job of keeping the value of their title high by not giving unfair title shots, and I think this is one in a way that you could say is an unfair title.
What are the odds the fight actually happens? Because Belfort has had to bail out of a lot of fights, and already we heard from the Silva camp, the elbow, might not be ready for, January 1st. So, is there a possibility that we could have a little drama before this fight anyway, and maybe Marquardt with a win gets pushed forward? So,
yeah, I expect the fight to go forward, to be honest. Steve, I think, Ed and Anderson will take the fight. I think they're healthy. There's no issue. They will take the fight. Now, can Vitor make it to the post? Certainly you bring up a good point. He's had a history of falling out of fights. And, so until you see Vitor walking down the aisle and climbing up the steps, you never know that the fight's going to go off. I think it will happen. my question is it going to be a title fight when it happens? Because, I just have this really nagging feeling that when Vitor goes and tries to cut those final 10 pounds and get from 195 to 185, it's going to be a lot different.
All right, Kev. Good job.
Thank you, Steve.